Welcome back. I just thought I'd share a few things with you that we've recently discovered, and with regards to this horse and this saddle. And I'll explain as I go. I had mentioned in another video that I'd quit riding this horse. Nothing wrong with her health-wise. It was just that she has such a peculiar shape to her that it's virtually impossible to get a saddle to fit on her properly. And, well, I'll show you a couple of the problems that we would have is um, the saddle itself just didn't sit nicely on her. And then the cinch itself would end up right up in behind in here. And because of her shape, it would work its way forward and right into her armpit. Not comfortable at all. And because of her shape, we had to really tighten the saddle down to keep it from moving. And then that would pull the saddle forward. And all these things just all combined just got to the point where we just said, you know what? It's not possible to ride this horse and have her be comfortable. So we just simply decided not to ride her. And that was a couple of years ago. And she actually hasn't been ridden very much in spite of her age. She's fairly old. But we haven't ridden her much because, well, I am a little too big for her, too. That's another thing. But I'll also address that a bit, too. But a whole bunch of things combined kind of go together on this one is I actually had purchased this saddle for one of my other horses. This was for Molly because she's half Arabian. She has a unique shaped back that is in, well, what we call an Arabian back. And this saddle is specifically an Arabian tree saddle. They are unique in their shape. Not a lot, but just a lot of little things that are different about these saddles. And in this particular saddle has also got some rather unique rigging on it too, which I'm going to show you in a minute. That, well, as it turned out yesterday, just on a whim, I'm not sure why, but I decided I'd just try it out on a little girl and see how it fit. No reason in particular, but I haven't actually, to that point, I hadn't even been able to sit in this saddle yet because Molly is sore, so I haven't ridden her. So I hadn't even tried to saddle out. I did put it on her once just to see how it was going to fit. Reasonably satisfied. Other than that, it has not been used since I bought it until yesterday. Like I said, on a whim, I decided to throw it on. And darn it, the thing fit beautiful. Solid as can be, just glued to her. As usual, I don't have the cinch very tight. I can easily slide my hand under it. I don't know if you can see that, but you can see how it's not very tight at all. And yet that saddle is as solid as can be. That's as tight as I need it to ride. And well, one of the things that she is in fact a little bit on the small side. But she's not as small as she looks. Looks are deceiving, and I think that's one of the points of this video is. Don't be deceived by appearances, because in spite of the fact she's only 13 and a half hands tall, mostly she's just got real short legs. She's actually a very stout little horse. She's close to 900 pounds and very solid. She's very stable, very sturdy little horse, very smooth ride actually. She's actually got a lot going for her. And of course, yes, I am too heavy for her, but we don't ride her hard or for very long. I know our limitations and I don't exceed them. And so we aren't hurting her at all. But my main concern was a saddle that fit properly, that would be comfortable on her back. And, well, the issue with the cinch. Now, the saddle itself actually looks a little funny on her. It looks way too big. But it's partly because of the tapaderos, because they make it look worse than it really is. Going back to be careful what you believe in. Appearances can be deceiving because the stirrup actually ends just below that concho right there. The rest is all just, it's open leather. But because it hangs so low, it really makes it look much worse than it is. You'd think that my feet would be almost dragging on the ground riding her, but no, they're not. It's not that bad at all. In fact, if you consider where the stirrup actually is, it's not that bad. And like I said, she is actually quite a sturdy little horse. And if you look at her directly from the front, her legs are quite far apart. She's got a very broad chest. She's actually a pretty solid built little horse. But I want to show you a couple other things about these saddles. And I will say that when it comes to, if you do have an Arabian or part Arabian, before you run out and buy an Arabian tree saddle, I want to talk a little bit about them. First off, not all Arabs even need them. Some you can use an ordinary Western saddle on, or even English or whatever you happen to have handy, with no problem. Not all Arabs have what is referred to as the Arab back, which you need a slightly lower angle on the bars. They have to be slightly curved. You need a wider gullet, a shorter skirt because they have a shorter back, things like that. There's a lot of stuff that is unique to the Arabian, but is not exclusive to them, as it turns out, in some cases. And not all Arabians even need an Arabian saddle. And again, not all Arabian saddles are created equally, because this is not the first one I've owned. And the last one that I had, I actually did have on this horse, and it didn't fit worth a darn. It didn't fit any better than the regular Western saddle that I got, my other saddle. And which I really wasn't convinced that this saddle was going to fit all that good. But it is a pretty good quality saddle, so I thought, well, what the heck? And I was thinking about some of the dimensional differences on it and whatnot, which is why I thought, I'll just chuck it on and see what happens. And as I turned out, I was rather surprised. Oddly, even though she's not Arabian, she's actually, we're not quite sure what she is, but mostly quarter horse as far as we know. And we are a little bit, we don't know, she was given to me, so we don't really know her breeding for sure. But as it turns out, this Arabian tree saddle fits like a glove on her. And like I said, aside from the saddle not fitting well, not being able to get one that fits well, my other concern was the cinch getting up into her armpit and being very uncomfortable, I'm sure. But I'm going to take you in a little closer on this, let you take a look, because I'm going to show you something that's interesting on this one. That this saddle has some unique rigging on it that, as it turns out, I think is actually beneficial for her. It actually solves another one of my problems. Okay, so we got a little closer view here. Hopefully you can see, because I need to show you some things here that are interesting. Because as I said, one of the things about her shape is she's got it narrows out a lot in here, so the cinch just wants to go forward no matter what you do. But this particular saddle is kind of unique. It's actually got two D-rings, and you use them both. Now, it's actually angled forward quite a bit for her, but normally it would go pretty much straight down on most horses. But you can see you utilize both of the D-rings, and you go around the cinch, back up to the other one, back around the cinch, over the other one, and makes this nice little V in there, which actually moves the cinch back just a tiny bit. And by doing that, it gets it away. Now, one of the normal problems would be having a cinch forward or angled like that is it would tend to pull the saddle forward, which in the past has been a problem with her. She's got low withers, and that would have brought the saddle forward, and you don't want that. And you don't want the saddle coming forward because in this area here is the shoulder blade. There's a fancy name for it. I'm just going to call it the shoulder blade because you know what that is. And it goes back to, let's see, where is it on her? Oh, at the top, it goes back to about right there. And the first inch or so of this saddle doesn't actually even press on the horse. The bars are actually start about here on it. So you would want to worry about the saddle coming forward because if it interferes with the shoulder movement, it can significantly affect how the horse moves, which you don't want. And so that's always a concern. But in this particular saddle, because it fits so well on her, it doesn't pull forward. I was concerned that would happen. Even though the rigging keeps the cinch further back, I figured because it's at an angle, it would cause it to pull the saddle forward. So when I took it for a ride yesterday just to see what would happen, to my amazement, the saddle didn't move an inch. For some reason, it just fits so darn well on her that it's quite happy exactly where it is, which is where it should be, back of the shoulder. There should be no pressure on the shoulder at all. so that she has complete freedom of movement in there. Makes it very comfortable for her. The cinch itself, well, because of the angle it's running at, it doesn't go forward and get into her armpit. Also comfort. I've seen one other saddle of this make, another guy had, and he actually only used the front D-ring on his. You could, I suppose. He also uses a rear cinch too, so that would, and because of the shape of his horse, it really isn't all that necessary. But when I bought this one, which I bought used, it was explained to me this is how you do it by the previous owner, and he bought it brand new and got instructions with it. So anyhow, so I thought I'd share this with you because I thought it was kind of interesting that sometimes you get interesting solutions to problems, and as I say, don't be deceived by appearances, particularly when it comes to the Arabian saddles. Not all of them are the same. I've had an Arabian saddle on it before, did not fit. This one fits beautifully. Also, don't be deceived by appearances because, as I said, as much as this saddle looks ridiculously big on her, it really does look funny. I've looked at it, stood back, took a good look, and it really looks silly. But appearances are deceiving. The stirrup is actually up here, not way down here. So it's not near as bad as it looks. But I just thought I'd share this with you, the unique solution to a problem. A horse with quite a barrel shape to her, and to ride her, this saddle fits so well. This cinch is actually quite loose at the moment, but that's pretty much where I would have it for riding, and this saddle just sits on her like I could probably take that cinch off and I could probably ride in it. It fits that well on her, but just thought I'd share that with you. Sometimes things aren't always what they seem. A little quarter horse with an Arabian saddle. That's an odd one, and it fits very, very well on her. Am I too big for her? Well, that might look like that's the case too, but actually the fact is the way I ride her and for the amount of time I ride her, no, that's not a problem either. So there you go. Don't be fooled by what you see, and some tips on Arabian saddles. They aren't all created the same. If you think you need one for your horse, be careful because they're a little more unique. They tend to demand a slightly higher price. And before you go out and spend a lot of money on a saddle, I wouldn't even buy one new myself. This one I got used, and even at that, it was not cheap. New ones, I wouldn't even consider it. It'd be cheaper to buy another horse. So before you run out, make sure you get a saddle that actually fits your horse. Make sure that you get a chance to try it out and make sure it fits. And as I said in other videos, remember the saddle pad can significantly alter the fit of the saddle too. We tried it without the saddle pad first to check the fit. Then we put this one on. This is actually a fairly thin one. And if you think that a thin saddle pad is not good, that you should have a really thick saddle pad, something that a lot of people really don't know. Historically, saddle pads are actually fairly new. At one time, you didn't put anything under the saddle. And that's why most saddles, well, actually all saddles that I've seen, have got fleece under them, because that was originally meant to go directly on the horse's back. The saddle pad and blanket, well, first it was a blanket, then the pad. Now we got pads. You can spend as much on a pad as you do on a saddle now. So, things to consider. Make sure it actually fits. That's the most important part. How much you pay for it is not near as important. Have a good day.